You're listening to the Impact Driver Podcast, a production of the Climbing Business Journal, where we explore the ideas, people, and pressures shaping the route setting industry. I'm your host, Holly Chen. I am a route setter, journalist, and contributing writer at the CBJ. This episode was brought to you by Waltopia, Trango, Cascade Specialties, the Climbing Wall Association, and Rooney. Hey Kenny, where are you calling from tonight?
Hey Holly, good to see you. I am in Houston, Texas right now, getting ready to do an opening set for one of our Momentum
Nice.
gyms. Yeah, should be
Awesome. But
exciting.
that's not where you're normally based, am I correct?
No, yeah, I'm usually in Salt Lake. Although, I grew up in Houston and I set here in Houston for like a really long time. But yeah, I've been in Salt Lake for about 2 years almost. So yeah, excited to be back though.
Yeah, I bet going back to the home turf, home crowd, gotta be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we dive into today's questions, I want to kind of get the audience to get to know you a little bit. So, do you want to tell me and the audience a little bit about your climbing history? Where did you start? When did you start? Any cool things along the way that you want to share?
Yeah. Wow, I started climbing, I guess shortly after college. I played soccer competitively for, like 18 years or something like that. All the way through college, had like a little scholarship and all that stuff. I was pretty psyched on it, but like most people, got burnt out and stopped. And I had a buddy of mine from high school that like really liked climbing, and he invited me one day. Had a very like, I don't know, trial by fire first day of climbing. I was out at a cliff, like learning how to belay, learning how to lead climb, like on real
Oh,
rock.
wow. It wasn't
Yeah,
inside, it
and
was outside.
nah, yeah, it was pretty like intense. But yeah, and then I started, going to a climbing gym eventually after that because I thought it was really cool. I climbed at a little gym called Stone Moves here in Houston, which was owned by this guy that a lot of people maybe know, John Muse. And
Mm.
yeah, I met like a lot of my like best buddies still to this day, like at that gym. And John was this like influential figure in route setting for us, and I kind of just like idolized these people for like the first year or so of me climbing. And when I got an opportunity to have a drill in my hand, I jumped at it and forgot everything else I was planning in life. And yeah, I've been doing it now for, I think I'm coming up on 14 years. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a long time, and I was supposed to be a physical therapist, but my
I was just
parents
gonna
probably
ask.
are really bummed that I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Like I sometimes you hear similar stories of other outsiders just going like, "Well, I'm gonna abandon that profession now, and I'm gonna do this." So I've heard it from accountants, from environment activists, it's just different walks of life. It brings a lot of people in. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Tell me a little bit about your setting history. So you got your drill in your hand in Houston, Texas, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I lived in this area of Houston. It was called the Woodlands, or like the Spring area. So there was this like gym that was opening up. Geez, I mean, this would have been like 2011 or something. I don't know if I'm not like mistaken. And yeah, like they needed an assistant manager. And so, yeah, I was like studying to get ready for PT school and start applying. I had like a few things after my undergrad that I needed to take care of to make sure I was ready. And I took this like assistant manager role, didn't really think anything of it, just needed money while I was going to school. And I met a guy named Josh Haynes, who was the head setter of that gym, and another guy named Morgan Young, who I think he's in Seattle now. But he was like a Texas local, and became friends with them just like from climbing with them and stuff when we were getting the gym opened. And Josh was like nice enough to say like, hey, you should like set a couple of boulders with us one day. And I think I set one boulder that day, and it was a train wreck, just like everyone's first time setting. But it was a lot of fun. It was like a small group, just the three of us. And over the course of like maybe 6 months to a year, I just like did it when I had time. It was unpaid. I just came in before my assistant manager shifts. I mostly closed the gym at that time and had a lot of fun. It was just like a creative outlet for me. I've always liked art and, music and all these other things. And so it was just something that I was like kind of just not like good at it instantly, but it felt like it was clicking pretty fast for me. And I think a lot of my education helped me understand like how body moves and like all that stuff, how the body moves. And I loved it, I became a coach for that gym at some point and was just like helping the youth team out. Um, I thought in my brain, I was like, oh, maybe I could just like coach. I don't need to go back to school. And I really liked coaching, but in my mind, I was like, man, I can always coach later, like when I'm old and decrepit, like I should probably like invest more in setting because it's this thing that brings me like a lot more joy. And I just like fully dove in. I, set when I could. I was starting to get paid at this point. I found a head setting position at a gym in North Carolina and I
What
applied,
gym was
got
that?
the job. It was called Inner Peaks at the time. I can't really remember if it's still called Inner Peaks. I think they were bought out by like a bigger chain at this point. But yeah, I moved out there like on a whim. Didn't really know if I was really ready to be a head setter, but like most young, you know, uh, eager setters, I was like, yeah, I can like totally do this.
I'll wing it.
I, yeah, I got out there. I was a good setter, but I don't think I was a good leader at the time and, made a lot of mistakes, but I learned a lot too. And, I was out there for like a year and a guy named Jeff Pedersen called me one day and he was the CEO and founder of Momentum. And he got my name from John Muse and a couple other people. And he was like, hey, I heard you're like a Texas local. Like, would you like to set at our gym? I was like, well, shit, man. I like kind of moved away. And, we talked a few times. And in those conversations, it was just like really clear to me that I wanted to come back home and I wanted to give, Houston something that like I thought it deserved, and it was nothing against like Stone Moves or any of the other gyms in town. It just, they weren't momentums, and if anyone's been in a momentum, they like know what I'm talking about. Like they're big and they have all these like steep terrain and like great holds and volumes. We use lifts when we're setting. It just feels like the place a setter like can just play and have a great time in. And so yeah, I like got demoted, I guess if you want to call that. I like was just a setter when I came back to Momentum, and worked with a really talented crew at that time. I had like John Ungst, who is a level 5, and maybe some people have gotten taught by him or been chiefed by him. And he was my boss for a few years. I got to work with like some of the Salt Lake guys as well. And yeah, it was like a crash course on like getting really, really good at route setting. Is like the easiest way for me to explain it. And yeah, I just kind of like, I guess through stubbornness, like stuck it out in Houston, and everyone thought I was crazy. And yeah, it was weird to like leave accessibility to rock climbing to come back to a place that has nothing. Our closest climbing is 3.5 hours away or so. And that's not even really that good. And that's no offense to anyone in Austin. It's just like, yeah, it's not the same as like going to the Red or,
The
any of these
park.
like primo
Yeah,
destinations, right?
Cottonwood. Yeah.
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 So yeah, I mean, I stuck it out I've been with Momentum for 9-ish years at this point.
Nice.
I'm now the director of route setting for the company. And so, yeah, I guess I like did the thing,
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
made it, if you will.
Uh-huh.
It feels weird sometimes to like think how far I've come in that time, but yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
It's got to be really satisfying to just like look back and be like, wow, that was 14 years and now here I am. It's got to be a
Yeah.
satisfying feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think a lot of people want like it right now,
For
I
sure.
want to be a
Yeah.
head setter and
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like there's times where yeah, I just like wasn't ready, and I think like I'm more than ready now, and it's just because that time, like I learned so much from so many people and so many like
Mm-hmm.
trials of like figuring my stuff out to land where I am now and feel comfortable at least.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the comps that you've set for? I know that you're a pretty big comp setter out there, but I think you might have a specialty potentially. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a bit, I guess. Like, I'm fortunate, and yeah, I don't know how to brag about myself. Yeah, I do a lot of para setting though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done para nationals like quite a few times. Done a couple of para World Cups. I like got to apply for like the Paralympic setting crew, which feels like really cool to be a part of this like
That is cool.
very small group of people that are even like in that list to have the experience. And we'll see what happens. I don't know when we find out about that, but yeah, I have a lot of friends that just like really liked para, and this guy Mark Mercer. I met him at one point. He was talking about para, and it was just like, dude, this sounds so cool. Like most of setting competitively is all about like, is it hard enough? Will it like get this many falls and blah blah blah. And for setting, it was like, how do we get 10 or 15 people on this route that are all dealing with like, five to sometimes 12 even different like examples of an impairment. And the mental side of it just seemed so much more complex. And, like I'll be the first to admit that I've never been like the guy that climbs V14. And so at the time I was like, well, okay, like there's so much I can do physically and like there's a ceiling there, but there's not really a ceiling mentally. And I can like think more about movement and, inclusivity in a competition setting that still tests athletes in a really meaningful way, but allows me more like, I don't know, like more brain exercises than just like a physical limitation of like, I have to be able to climb, V14 to be at a World Cup. So yeah, I don't know. That's not to like diminish what we're doing in para. Like it's getting harder and harder every year. Like the level is rising, and the diversity in athletes and their like abilities is like getting more and more exciting. And leading up to the Olympics, I think it's just really cool to see, a sport that, man, like 8 years ago, like people just weren't climbing at the level that they are now. And being a part of that movement that's like pushing people and like growing the sport feels really cool for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's just like when you have the field to play on, you have the chance to improve your skill. So with the population, it's not like the population of paraclimbers were ever different. You just brought more into the field. You're like, hey, here we created this thing for you. Have at it, have fun, like
for
enjoy it,
sure.
show us your best. And yeah, I really like that. I've been meaning to do like a whole mini series on paraclimbing, so I might have to come back to you for that when I do get the okay to do that one.
Yeah. I might know a few people.
Yeah. It'll be cool. And do you want to tell me a little bit about like professional certifications? Like people go past the USAC certs. Like some people are like, oh, I'm also an AMGA guide or yoga teacher. We do all do a variety of things.
Yeah, I don't have much. I mean, I have like a level 4, I guess, with USA Climbing and the endorsements and all that. I guess I have like this PRS and work at height level 3. Don't get after me, CWA. I think I still have a couple of things I have to check off my list before I actually officially get it. But yeah, I went through the whole thing with them, and that feels really cool. I got like a couple like really silly certifications, like a boom lift certification and like stuff like that. But who cares about all that?
My old gym literally printed out a boom lift certification, wrote my name on it, and handed it to me. and it was just on this
Yeah.
piece of printer paper, and I'm like, what am I? Is this supposed to go somewhere? Like, do I frame
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't even know where mine is. I think I have it digitally somewhere. So, but no
yeah.
one's ever really said anything about it. I don't know. I'm like on construction sites quite a bit right now. And yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone's fishing for us. But watch tomorrow. I'm going to find someone in the gym.
Yeah, they're just gonna like, sir, show me your certification first.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you do outside of rock climbing? What do you like? You said you like music and art.
Yeah. I like music in the sense that I listen to a lot of music. I go to a lot of shows and stuff. I cannot play music. I've tried a lot, and I'm terrible at it every time. So I think at this point in my life, I'm just going to leave it to the pros. But yeah, I used to skateboard quite a bit, and I like tried really hard to get back into that as I was getting older. But I guess nowadays I'm just too fearful. And so most of my skateboarding is just sort of vibing and pretending like I still got all the things in the bag. And then yeah, like I go through stints of creativity where I like paint and do other things, but it's pretty hit or miss, and like it's really dependent on work and like how much time I have. And like nowadays, I think a lot of my creative energy is like going into like bettering our product or building new gyms, and it's getting harder to like find time for myself. But hopefully,
That's fair. Yeah.
yeah, some things will
Yeah.
slow down for a little bit and we'll find
Yeah,
some time
that's
to paint
fair.
again.
Yeah, and earlier when you said, route setting is not necessarily something you can do in your old age. Coaching is. I feel the same. Like I'm like I want to write a fantasy novel,
Yeah,
but I can write that when I'm 70. I
for
can't route
sure.
set when I'm 70. This episode was brought to you by Waltopia. Outdoor climbing walls create visibility and expand programming. Waltopia designs outdoor walls specially for commercial facilities. Learn more at waltopia.com. I am really excited about today's chat because in our previous conversations, you brought up this really cool thing. So, on the show and in my everyday setting, we talk a lot about the technical side, the movement, the hold, the grades, the comp results, blah, 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 blah. But every now and then I hear something, and this time it's from you, of a different perspective to approach route setting. We've had guests on the show that talked about how they use a scientific lens or an academic lens or a creative poetic lens, and you seem to have tried to combine a lot of these into 5 buckets. Do you want to tell me a little bit about what this is? What are these 5 buckets?
Yeah. So, I think like some of these might not come as a surprise to people, but maybe like how I think of them might be different. But yeah, I look at things, first is like visual or like aesthetics, and like that doesn't necessarily only revolve around like how it looks and like whether it's like art or design, this whole form or function thing. But like maybe like what does it tell people about our craft, and what does it tell about the climb before they even like experience it. And then there's the physical part, which is like, grades, difficulty, like accessibility and sizing. There's like a mental or cognitive lens, which is like, what are we teaching someone? Is there something to be learned in this moment? And then, a cool one that I think a lot of people maybe like can experience more in like a competitive standpoint, but I try to bring it into a commercial conversation as well, is this like idea of emotions, and like how can a rock climb evoke emotions out of a person, and what can that do for someone, like on a given day. And then ultimately this all leads to this like cultural lens, which is that like I think I'm trying to find a way to like create the climbers that I want to like set for, rather than like only do what people want, which is like really easy and successful. Like we can give them soft boulders that are like trainers, and like we can cater to like exactly what people need. But then my job as a route setter is no longer as fun. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that's not too much information? Because I know we have a lot of
No, not
questions
at
after
all.
that.
Yeah, not at all. I'm wondering when you started thinking about this. Did it all come at once? Was it like kind of a gradual thing throughout your career? Was there a mentor, a coworker, or an event that kind of started spurring this thinking process?
Hmm. I don't think there was like a specific moment necessarily. I think it's like been a slow build. I think like there's been people along the years that like have said things that resonated with me. But ultimately, yeah, I think like how do I get competitive, like route setting principles into a commercial world without, members just thinking like, oh, these are all comp folders. Like, I don't want to climb here anymore. And you can compartmentalize and just be like, okay, well, I'm a commercial route setter today and I'm going to do the things that everyone wants. Or you can try to find a way to like bridge the gap. And I guess like that was my goal of like making the mundane commercial set feel a little bit more like intentional. And I don't remember what year it was, but I started like writing things in notebooks or like in just like random like emails. And then now I think it's like one of the signatures in my email. But yeah, it's this idea of like set with intention and deliver with precision. So like if I can come up with something to do for each boulder or each set or whatever, and then execute that with this like high level of precision that I like hopefully have in all my like year of experience, it makes the day to day like feel a little higher stakes, I guess, and like feel a little more like a comp. And I can choose to like not do that day too, and just like clock in and clock out, and that's fine if I need that. But when I'm really looking for that like mental kind of component of route setting that gets me inspired, I sort of look at these things first.
That's fair. I'm so excited to break all of these down because I have so many questions for you. I want to start with aesthetics because you mentioned earlier it's the first thing that somebody sees before they can even touch the hole, before they can even walk up to it. They see the boulder or the set. And, you mentioning that the aesthetics of a climb is not just how it looks because to some degree we have a control, but to another degree, the holds are the holds. We did not shape the hold. We don't have the control to, its finest grain. But I'm wondering when you think about aesthetics, are you looking at from just a visual design or a movement design or both, or where does that line kind of intersect?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends on the situation. I can definitely like point to moments in my life where I'm just like putting things on the wall that like look cool, and then like I'll sort of wait for forerunning to figure it out. But ultimately, I think what I try to do is like tell a story in aesthetics. So like, like what sort of movement can we get out of this like terrain, and how can I complement that and make the like negative space that maybe like a climber's like body is going to fill, or maybe another boulder on the wall is going to fill. Like can I play with these things to draw your eye in and like want to discover what's happening in there? And that word intention is like huge too here, because I just like want to remove any excess from the equation. Like I don't want anything to just be on there purely for like the artistic value of it. Like I want it to be needed, and then I want it to be like important. And I look at it and feel like some like relation to outdoor climbing, which is that like no one ever went to a cliff and climbed the thing that looks like shit. Like the first thing that got done was the thing that had something on it that the person on the ground was like, I want to go touch that thing.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
like I
I
don't know
agree.
how
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up there, but I'm gonna go play on that thing. And yeah, if I look back at my boulder after all the function stuff is done, and I can't find that, then I don't really know why I would keep it on the wall. because there's
That's
no
fair.
real
Yeah.
inspiration, for someone to be like, I absolutely am going to try that boulder.
Yeah, I think it invokes like a very childish glee where you just
Hmm.
walk in, you go, ooh, 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 I wanna play on that. Like I have
Yeah.
an example. Actually, this is maybe I think this is someone you know. Max Masonoff. You might know
Hmm.
this guy. You do.
Yeah.
But we have a volume that we call the whale. It's a This is a PG podcast. I'm not actually going to tell you all the name that we call
Got it.
this volume, but it
I
is
think I'm tracking.
very yes, it is very tall. Like it's actually a Waltopia HRT old like fiberglass slash wood thing. It probably comes up to like my eye when it's standing upright. And
Okay.
Max and two other setters spent like an hour getting it into the roof of our lead cave. So we have one very small section that is a roof. The cool thing was it is the first thing you see when you walk into a gym. You just walk in, you go like, that's a thing. Like it just sticks down from the roof. But it created such cool movement around it because suddenly you're bear hugging it, you're stemming onto it, you're doing all these things. And that was one of the examples of like, oh, he wanted that thing on the wall because it's not just a movement design, it's an aesthetics design. And then when you walk in, there is not a single person that goes, yeah, I'm not going to try that route. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what grade it is. Everyone's like, I'm going to climb that. I'm going to touch that thing. I'm going to stem onto it. I'm just going to jump to it. Yeah, it's one of those examples, I think.
I love that. I like, it was pretty early on in my career. Like, if it wasn't John Muse, there's like definitely someone like from that kind of like, I guess like, they weren't like first gen, but like an older gen
Yeah.
of like USA climbing route setting that was like, they just simply put like, oh, it's kind of lazy that you put that big thing on with a
On the ground,
ladder.
like, yeah.
And
Or
like,
like
yeah, I
on
was
the
just
first
like,
bolt.
damn, that's, that hurts. And
Uh-huh.
like the next time around, I was like, okay, well, I'll figure out how to like haul this giant thing up on my rope and like do that. And, the next time around, that person was like, dude, that's what I'm talking about. Like now we're like,
Now we're
putting
talking.
our
Yeah.
like craft front and center, and like showing off what we're like capable of doing. And yeah, that like really stuck with me. And I just think like, yeah, you can be a good setter, like setting movement and all that stuff. But I think the great ones are the ones that are like making the things that like all of us, when we're like looking at it on Instagram or watching a World Cup or a Nationals, where we're like, dang, I wish that was like my product,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Rooney. Out of Norway, Rooney makes chalk and apparel for climbers, inspired by YouTuber Magnus Midmo. Learn more at rooney.com. Okay, we're talking about these cool looking stuff. Now let's talk about the opposite. When you put something up and you go, wow, that looks like shit. Like, that's just how it looks terrible. Sometimes something can look crappy and climb extremely well. We're not denying that. But
Mhm.
when something looks crappy, do you think, what is it saying to the member? And, this is maybe an odd area to dive into because something that looks crappy to you could look really awesome to me, could look, mid to another member. It really varies. But when something is just, oh my God, what is that? That is so ugly. What does that do? Does it damage the brand? Does it, take the psyche out of the climber? What do you think it does?
I don't necessarily want to say that it like damages the brand because I'm like gonna say that I also love doing ugly things if it's like meant to like bring out some emotion or it's like meant to like kind of I don't know, upset the status quo, if you will. Like I'm a rebel too. But I think, like what car brand or like fashion brand, like who is putting out ugly stuff? You know what I mean? And like maybe a team of people thought something was really cool and then it doesn't land with like the population of people that are supposed to buy that thing, and then we have these like funny things that kind of like become I don't know, like
A
collector
meme.
items, yeah,
Yeah.
or a meme or like whatever. But like, yeah, like, what design team in any other industry is like actively trying to be ugly. And so it's like weird if we're just like ignoring that, like we have the ability, like to make something look a little more inviting, or like beautiful, if you want to use that word, like whatever you want to say. And if you have time, I think it like shows more like craftsmanship if you like put the effort in to making something look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I know that's like just my philosophy, and it's like shared by a lot of people. Like obviously there's aesthetics first like setters for a reason, but and I don't necessarily think everyone should be aesthetics first, but I think if there's time, why aren't we like gonna take 10 minutes to maybe line this thing up or find another hold that like matches the like vibe that we're going with right now? Like, why do we pick this hold just because it's the one that's on the ground in front of us, yeah, it's like I don't know, like when commercially do we really just like have to accept that we don't have the ability to like spend 30 seconds looking for the right hold, or 10 minutes
Yeah. I
discussing
think
like balance.
yeah, it's the 30 seconds is rare, especially when I'm like, "Hey, can you go grab me a crimp?" Maybe I'm on a rope or something, and then someone comes back with, I'm like, "That's the ugliest crimp in the bucket. Why did you pick this one?"
Yeah.
Or it's just like you can see my route and every hold is a smooth texture and they bring out something that's a rough texture and I'm like, I'm just gonna come down. I'm gonna jug
Yeah.
my line just for this one crimp.
Yeah.
And when you
And that's
said
more of what I'm
earlier,
talking about, right? Like
yes,
smooth
yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah,
texture, or like, yeah, can we find the green that like matches? Like, can we not
yeah,
go grab like the kind of off green? Just because it's
yeah.
green doesn't mean it's like the one that I want. Yeah, it's like those little things that I'm talking about.
When you said pretty cars versus ugly cars, I had a car in my head and I really wanted to like shout it out,
Yeah.
but then in my head I goes, what if Kenny drives that car?
I doubt I do.
Are you sure? Okay. I think a Cybertruck is the ugliest thing in the world. It is so bad. Hey, it invokes an emotion, and that
Yeah, for
emotion
sure.
is I want to smash your window with a brick.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I think they're like pretty ugly. I also understand
Yeah,
that like there's some people that think they're really cool.
they're different. They're
But
different for sure.
yeah, they're definitely different, and like different strokes for different folks for sure. I want people when they come into momentums, for example, like I want them to, one, like believe that like the movement that they're going to get is good, but I also want them to believe that like our setters are, like professional and like craft oriented, and that they're installing things correctly, they're like taking time to like curate these experiences for them, and it's not just like a bunch of holds shotgunned on the wall. And like our density at most of our gyms are like still pretty high, but we're still finding ways to like make something pop and provide those like wow factor moments for people, which I think is like important
Yeah,
for
I
any
agree.
brand. Yeah, how you
Yeah,
do it is
there's
like
a
kind of up to you and your brand, but yeah, there's different
yeah,
ways to do it. But
there's a big difference between a route setter and a hold installer. That's kind of how I like. Yes, most people can grab a bunch of holds and slam it on the wall and somewhat make it go. But there's a huge difference between just doing that. If you're just doing that, you might as well just go install kilter and tension boards. Like that's what it is, a hold installer.
yeah,
But route setting is a different thing. Okay. I want
we
to move
can't
on to
touch
the
hold
physical.
installer. All right.
Yes.
Maybe that'll be
Yeah.
another podcast.
Absolutely. Every time I talk, I feel like we keep branching off to like, oh, that's a 3 hour podcast. Oh, that's a mini series. Like the possibilities are endless here. And mostly because I'm a nerd and I will never shut up about outsetting. Um, but okay, I want to talk about the physical lens because when I first heard your five, lenses and buckets, I thought, oh, that's the obvious one, like climbing is a physical, it's a sport, it's a athletic endeavor. And I think, at least in my circles and the comps that I've been to, sometimes that becomes the biggest focus is just how hard is the level right? The movement, all of these things that revolve around the physical aspect of a boulder. But I get the sense that you are kind of looking beyond the difficulty or the level of a boulder. So tell me a little bit more about this physical lens and what are you really paying attention to when you say physical?
Yeah, I mean, physical is definitely difficulty and like sizing. I think those are like they're obviously talked about the most because they're kind of like in a lot of ways the most important thing at the end of the day. Like I think building trust with your customers is like huge, and a lot of that is through grade consistency and inclusivity if within like sizing. But to go further past that, I think I'm like trying to figure out ways for like the bigger picture to think of physicality. So like rather than every climb fitting everyone, like can we create experience for everyone to like be a part of, but maybe they like work a little differently for someone that's like 4'11" versus someone that's like 6 foot. And like maybe the grade is like slightly different due to sizing or whatever. And like that's something for that individual to like understand within like a circuit or a V grade system, whatever your gym is doing. But what I don't want to see is like, the 4'11" person just like not be able to do the thing. Like I'd rather the 4'11" person be able to like do the thing and say like, well, I think it's V6, and then the 6 foot person say, I think it's V4. But they still like had an experience on that boulder. It wasn't the same, and I don't think it should ever be the same anyway, because that's like not what rock climbing is. I my partner is 4'11", and like, we just climb things so differently. Like in a lot of ways, like we can do the same things, and then in some ways, like she can do things that I can't do at all because of my sizing. And it requires like a certain strength to be able to overcome that. And then I obviously can like reach through things that she has to like, shit crimp on like some pebble. And like those times are like really fun. And I think it's just like the climbing experience is that like I just got to rock climb. Like how I did it doesn't necessarily have to feel the same as her, but like we did this thing together and like had a shared experience that included maybe two different experiences on one thing. Maybe like a way to say this is that just like I want everyone to be able to like play, but I don't necessarily want all of them to play the same way, which like goes into para like in a really unique way, because that's essentially like what we're doing. Like we're creating scenarios and like opportunities for people of different abilities first and foremost, but also different sizes, and then like different degrees of impairments to navigate a situation in maybe like 4 or 5 different ways, while still trying to make all those ways feel relatively similar to one another. And it's really fun to allow people a physical opportunity to like express themselves that isn't me like determining what they're capable of. It's just like providing opportunity for them to showcase what they're capable of.
I really like that perspective because I think I use that more so in a commercial environment where, maybe there's two extra crimps here, but it's all roughly the same difficulty of bad. And yeah, maybe I will hit the first crimp and you get to bump to the sixth crimp or whatever. But then the way we shuffle through the three crimps is going to be very different because of our height. And ultimately, we still do the climb, but it's just how do you want to do it? Or maybe I can hike a high heel and just go to the last crimp anyway. Like, I
Yeah.
think it took me a long time to stop hating the fact that I am a short climber. I'm 5'2", so I'm not like super duper short. And back home in Taiwan, I'm perfectly average height. But here I can't reach my own kitchen shelf sometimes. But but like I realized being a short climber is pushing me to develop my climbing in very different ways because I have, figured out how to route read for beta breaks and not the mainstream stream sequence. And that's really cool. And I think when you mentioned the equitability part of the physical element, that was also my first thought after difficulty, like the raw difficulty, and how different that feels between your V6 and my V6. Like, is that the same? Or is there going to be a V6 in which we both agree with our different heights, that this is V6, right? Like, that's just a never-ending conversation right there. Like, the murkiness of grades.
Yeah. And I think like sometimes we can like hit the nail on the head, Like
Yeah.
I think I just strive, I guess, for like consistency and opportunity rather than like perfection.
No, I agree. And not to dive too deep into the emotional side, but a V5 or a V6 outdoors, like there's going to be one that I flash and one that I spend all morning on. Like there's no, and also if we look at different areas, like a 511 at the Red is not going to be the same as a 511 Yosemite. And also, has anyone climbed a 5.9 plus in Yosemite? Like I shit my pants just doing some 5.9 plus slab. I legitimately thought I was going to die. And I have never felt that way on any 512 in the Red. Like that's just kind of the physical and the technical element of it. That's not always perfectly quantifiable. And we can do our best, right? Like we are obviously doing our best as setters to say, this is a V5. Like this is a V5, this is our V5. It may not be a V5 in California, it may not be a V5 in Colorado, but here, this is our V5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
That's what we want, and we try our best every day. And then, oh my God, we're currently
And we're still human, and we inevitably
Yeah.
don't get it right.
Exactly. Like there's always somebody. And like going back to you saying, oh, you can spy that V5 is reachy. That also means I can find the V5 that's scrunchy. I can go, oh, I can put my foot up there. I can put my foot on this. I can sling a heel earlier than anyone else can. And then that's going to be the boulder that I find to be the easier V5 versus the big reach one when maybe I'm a little bit tipped out,
For sure. Yeah, and hopefully like us as a crew has like acknowledged that there was a reach V5 and we should probably do something about it. And that could be changing that V5 or acknowledging that we just need to like set another V5 for like shorter people on the same set so that when you come in, there's an opportunity for you to climb a V5 today. Like, and you can choose that you don't want to do the reachy one and you want to do the scrunchy one, or you can like go have some fun and try to figure out how to dyno to the tiny crimp that we put on the wall.
Yes. Oh my God. This is a thing that short climbers get that I don't know if 6-foot plus climbers can do. The satisfaction of hitting and holding a position at maximum wingspan. Like that is it feels so good when you hit it and you're just like, I'm still on the wall.
It feels good for me too. I'm like 5'10" and some change. Like I'm not the tallest climber in the world. I'm like, above average. And like there's still things outside where like I'm like, man, I wonder if I could stay on the better foot, But then that means I have to get tipped out on something and then try to like figure out how to get out of it. And I like that too. It's just
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. And then that's when you come down, you look at your partner and you go, ooh, you're gonna need the bad foot. You're like, ooh, I don't know who set this climb out here. Jesus, maybe, but yeah.
Well, she's already done the boulder because she's way stronger than me. So.
It's actually her telling you, like, ooh, you might need the better foot here. That's amazing. I love that. This episode was brought to you by Trango. Trango's climbing holds are shaped by iconic industry setters because great holds start with the people who actually set with them. Learn more at trango.com. This is leading perfectly into the emotional lens and emotional bucket because this one's a little bit hard to quantify, just as grades are hard to quantify. But for anyone who has spent any amount of time working on a climb, maybe it's a morning or a month or years, and then they send it, they know that climbing is not just physical. Like I can train as much as I want. And if my mental game's not there, I'm not doing that Yosemite 5-9. Or I can train as much as I want. And if I don't, hone in the temper tantrum when I fall, I'm not gonna have a good time. And there's so many elements to this. But do the same thing with the other two buckets. Tell me a little bit about what you see and what you feel when you look at the emotional element of route setting and route climbing.
Yeah, we are trying to, I think, evoke emotions that are like ideally mostly positive, right? Like I want people to like feel seen and included in like the climbing community. I don't want a short person to come in and not have anything to climb. Just like I don't want a tall person to come in and like be able to cheat the dyno, like that's not the same experience for them. And it makes them, maybe they can find excitement in it for sure, but it doesn't feel like, oh man, like I really want to do a V6 dyno today, but like that one was, I could just reach it. And I want them to, like build confidence, like feel like they're progressing. Ultimately like keep paying for your membership, you know? And like I don't want us to be soft necessarily, because like that is obviously an easy way to like get people like psyched and they like feel like they progress, but it doesn't feel genuine. And I think people pick up on that really easily. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, like it's all good vibes. And if I look at something and, we're trying something in a forerunning session and it just like, it's like, man, like this is really cool. But like if we put V4 on this, it's like gonna feel kind of shitty for people. And like maybe that means we just slap a V5 on it and call it a day. Or maybe we dive a little deeper if we have the time to like figure out a way to like dumb this down or open up the opportunity for a V4 climber to like find joy and like confidence and progression in this thing, which, there's like this idea of teaching that's coming up, but the testing side of it, which is like most of what route setting is what really drives these like emotions. Like the first time someone does a paddle at their limit, like it's the coolest feeling in the world. You feel like a superhero. And there's all these things that lead to that moment, like frustration and like drive to like, "Ugh, I want to paddle one day, and like, or whatever move that we want to talk about. And then there's that elation that happens, like, where it's like, yeah, you've done your hardest project or whatever. And we're sort of chasing that in that testing phase, and trying our best to not let like the frustrating side of all of the lessons that we're hoping to teach people deter them from like coming back in. But frustration is important because it like creates hopefully like a drive to like overcome and like get past this like plateau or this like door that's like slowly closing on you.
I do agree with like all of the whole spectrum leading up to I will never do this, or something shutting down someone so hard that they just feel demoralized. And like when you finish setting a QE and you watch that kid who didn't place very high walk out and you have that feeling, you go, huh, I really hope that this is not the event that makes you quit rock climbing. Right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I don't want to get to when it comes to these emotions. But if they get a few zones, if they feel like they have some level of success, then even if the anger is the main emotion, they'll come back. They'll come back and keep trying.
Yeah, I hope so. No, I've chiefed a lot of
I hope
events and
so.
like, yeah, I mean, I think parents, once upon a time, I think I was like maybe considered like a jerk. And like people always thought I was like a sandbagger that was like out to, teach these kids like some lesson about life. And like, parents and coaches were like, man, it's like, it's always so hard when we come to your comps. And like the kids are always, like crying afterwards. And the coaches tell them that it's going to be hard not to get their hopes up. And I remember hearing this and being like, damn, that's like, that sucks. Cause like, I actually just think they're like capable of doing these things. and some of the kids would do them, and and it's just like, yeah, there's this other group of kids that just maybe weren't ready that day or whatever to complete the challenge. And it like really bothered me because I would tell people all the time, it's like, dude, I don't like go home and like smile about how many kids cried today. Like, what are you talking about? Like I'm like really bummed that like that happened. And like, I don't want any kid to quit, but I do like it's a comp, like they should come and like experience something and like hopefully get better. And like, yeah, I would put some ownership on coaches and parents a lot back then of like, you need to just learn how to like, you know, get your kid or like your kids to like see this as an opportunity for growth and not see this as like, well, I'm really emotional and that means that I like should just give up. Like, can we
Yeah.
shift and reframe things? Like, I don't want to gaslight anyone, but like, yeah, like, can we use this like anger, sadness, or like disappointment in a way that like motivates you for next time around?
No, yeah. I think it's
Maybe
it's
that's
just
wishful thinking.
hard because these kids they're a lot of them are young, they're teenagers, their brains haven't fully formed yet. They feel anger and suddenly that just overtakes everything else. Whereas an
Yeah.
adult might be able to be like, "Oh, okay, I'm angry, but that's okay. Like I can sit with this anger and use it to fuel my training or my try hard next time." But when I'm just trying to imagine you going home and be like, "Yes, I made 3 kids cry today."
Yeah. No, it's
That's
like the
one more
worst
kid
feeling
more than
ever.
last time.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling ever. Maybe when it's like
Yeah,
I don't know, like a 17 or 18-year-old kid, because it's like, come on, man, you gotta like, you should have figured this out by now. Like, it's gonna
yeah,
be hard.
yeah. You're
but,
like you've been. I've
but
I've
yeah,
watched you compete since you were 11. Have you not gotten the
yeah,
gist?
yeah. Watching an
Yeah,
8-year-old fall on the first move of a sport route and then like crying with his hands in his head, like yeah, like
that's bad. That's
I don't
bad.
take
Like
joy in that. I know I'm like
no.
smiling and laughing right now, but it's like, no, that's not what I want to happen.
Yeah, no. I've watched that happen before, and you're just like, like you feel for that. You feel that empathy. You just go, oh, that's not
Yeah.
good. Yeah. This episode was brought to you by the Climbing Wall Association. The CWA offers certifications for route setting, climbing wall instruction, and work at height to help you level up in your career. Learn more at cwapro.org. Route setting as education. What is our responsibility to teach? Where is that responsibility? So, where do we start? Where do we end? What kind of falls within a route setter's job description, or not necessarily job description, even our ethos, our philosophy as like people who are influencing who's climbing, how they progress, and how they view rock climbing.
Yeah, I think our job is mostly like building this like movement encyclopedia for people. So yeah, like providing opportunities for a V3 climber to experience, like maybe some pinches or, a more dynamic move that is like within the realm of like the possibility for like that V3 climber. But then when they encounter that at like a V4 or even a V5 later in their like climbing career, they are like ready to like experience that. And like the worst thing I think for us to do is to like forget that challenge is like not a bad thing. Like, people are coming into our doors to have an experience, and that experience is generally speaking, like exciting and like maybe like a risky thing to them, or maybe it's just to be physically active. And like, we can just build ladders for people.
And going back to what you said about like the challenge versus the education, right? Like the introducing heel hooks. Like let's say I introduced this move at V3 that there's a heel hook to help you get across this overhang. Maybe this 19-year-old boy who's a V3 climber is going to campus through that. Yeah, he can do that. But when he
Yeah.
hits the same move at V5, he's going to think back to that V3 and go like, "Oh, why can't I campus this move now?" what
Hmm.
was in that V3 slash in this V5 now that I'm not seeing. And that's the moment, that's the line that we're trying to walk, right, as a route setter.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like, it's up to these people if they want to like learn and progress,
Exactly.
like we don't have a sign out there that's like, hey, we did this for you. And like, I know, I think
Ta-da!
like movement maybe did something where they had like, maybe it was like within Kaya where it was like a learning boulder and then like a test piece boulder or something. They had like tags
Oh,
that people could like
uh-huh.
reference as they were like looking at a set. And yeah, I like thought that was really cool. And that's like a great way to like, like kind of like promote this like ideology to people.
The last lens here is the most ambiguous when I first heard it from you. Cultural, what route setting encourages the communities to become. And I see it in, the Front Range, Colorado has so many gyms. So I can see it gym to gym. Like we have a gym in the north that's more catered towards comp kids. So they don't really set the birthday party climb, they just set comp climbs. We have a gym here where most of its members are lifelong climbers. Lynn Hill climbs at that gym, and they cater to the outdoor climber. They set trainers, they set flowy, cool, just like trainers, nothing crazy, nothing too comp. So this is where I see it culturally. So I'm kind of wondering where your perspective is in this sense. Like, what do you mean by the cultural lens in the sense of route setting? And where do you feel like route setting can actually shape the climbing community? Or was it just
Mhm.
reflected?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can like go back in time. I think the first time I watched a video on YouTube that had me kind of like reflect on what is like the culture of a climbing gym and a route setting program was, and I don't want to regurgitate anyone because everyone can find the video, but like Tonde had put out kind of like a philosophy of the Seattle Bouldering Project setting. And, at the time it was like really kind of like revolutionary, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it felt like intentional and it felt like they were making decisions that were all to, yeah, like, I guess like create the climbers that they wanted to like develop, like in this new kind of like philosophy. And they were kind of like unrelentlessly gonna just do it. And
Yeah.
like it didn't
Uh-huh.
really matter if anyone liked it or not, and like it was just kind of like, yeah, we're all in. Like this is what our company is gonna do from now on. And like obviously that company is doing well. It's kind of changed over the years and like people have come and gone and I think it looks a bit different than it did back then. But most people, when they like think of bouldering project, they think of like low density, like high resource, like a lot of intention on like learning and inclusivity and like creating a cool atmosphere. And it like bleeds into like almost every department in their company, And we at like Momentum have like a similar like thing where it's like we're just trying to simply build better climbers. That's like our tagline and our like kind of like North Star most of the time. And like we hopefully are like hitting that nail on the head. And like it's I think one of the things that our members really like about us is that they know they're coming in to like rock climb, get better at rock climbing and get prepared for their projects outside. So like yeah, like just in those two examples, you have like very different things that are going on. We're like high density. We're like kind of a little bit more like strict to the grade and what it should feel like outside. And preparation is like a big part of what we're doing. And then like at BP, for example, at that time, it was more about like discovery and like grades are subjective and it could be whatever you think it is, but it fits in this like kind of package here. And we're going to provide, a circuit across the gym that you can like come in and you're doing the orange circuit that day. You're going to like experience like all this diversity across all these grades. And like, that's our sole focus is for you to like just simply enjoy your time in our facility and like have a cool experience. which is very different than us. Like I want people to have a good experience and a cool experience for sure. I want them to learn. Um, but like I want it to be like very like calculated, I guess. And maybe like validating or like, like, okay, yes, I do climb 513A. I did a 513A at Mill Creek, and I know that like if I go out to sorry, I just blanked completely on the name of okay, if I went out to Maple, I know that 13A is going to feel the same. And when you go to like BP at that time, it's like I don't know what the hell this orange is. It's up to me at this point to
Yeah.
like as a climber decide what I think this orange is and like have conversations with people about what it is. But like no one here is going to give me a definitive answer of like whether or not this is the grade I think it is, because they're going to feed this like philosophical idea of like, well, it could be any of these grades. And it's like up to you to decide. And like you're here to like, experience that and learn and like enjoy the like kind of vagueness of this like atmosphere and interact with everyone around you and like kind of figure it out for yourself. And whether that's like Tonde's like full intention or whatever, but that was like always my like takeaway when I went to a BP at the time was like, I'm just here to like climb whatever I can climb and like try to figure out what that meant,
Yeah.
for me, like, and my body type and my strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, like, I think nowadays I just like don't think a lot of gyms are looking at their setting program like that anymore. They sort of look at it through the lens of like customer service to a
Yeah.
fault. Like it's like, well, we need to get this many climbs on the wall, and we need to get this many in each grade on the wall, and we need to have it done by like 4 p.m. and we need to like make sure that like there's some softballs in there so that people feel good when they come in. And it's too much on like, I don't know, like digestibility of rock climbing and like not enough on like lessons. We're the only ones that are going to fix that. We can talk about marketing and like business strategy and like all this other shit, like all we want within the climbing industry. But like, I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that. I just know how to put holds on the wall and, like what can I do and what can my teams do to like keep people invested in coming in every day.
This episode was brought to you by Cascade Specialty. Since 1999, Cascade Specialty has installed and refurbished top quality flooring for both rope and bouldering areas. Learn more at cascadespecialty.com. I think my return question here is, let's look at all of the ideals that you have just kind of laid out. It's a little bit of that B pump. Everyone is invested to become a better climber. It's a little bit of the ambiguity of BP's like grading style, and it's a little bit of momentums. Like we're trying to make better climbers. Like if we in this perfect world, we can smush all of these ideals to create the perfect gym, the perfect setting program. Like, what would this setting program look like in practice? Because we can talk about these perfectionist ideals all we want, and I subscribe to them. Don't get me wrong, I subscribe to that so hard. Like, I want every climber who walks through the door to, one, think boulders are beautiful, two, feel like they can find an appropriate challenge for their grade, and three, they're challenged enough at this grade that they see the progression to the next. Like, they're not like, I'm stuck at V3 forever, I'm stuck at V8 forever. But the reality of a route setter is that this industry is rough on the body, it pays poorly, and we are all burnt out to some degree. The day when I come in and I have the energy to put, all this thought and effort into making the V8 comp boulder become V4, sometimes it can feel like it's starting to feel, oh wow, the last time I did that was a month ago. The last time I did that was 2 months ago. And, it's tiring, it's hard to keep that stoke up. where do you feel like you as a leader can come in and try to guide your team towards that North Star, as you were saying, like this ideal, this perfect world that if we could have, we would have.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's hard because production is a huge part of like what we do. And I think like the larger like our company gets like momentum, like the harder it is to like meet these like kind of like timelines that we've set ourselves up for members to like expect of us, right? Like, when it's just one gym and you're like, well, their boulder turnover is 6 weeks and their sport turnover is, 12 weeks. And then you get a second gym and it's like, well, maybe I can hire some more people and keep the 6 and 12 for both these gyms. And then a third gym comes on and you're like, well, we can hire like one more person. We can't hire like six more people. And you're like, well, okay, something has to dip, right? And you can choose to dip like your quantity and like stay true to these like turnover metrics that you're like hoping to like hit, or you can accept that like, okay, well, we're just going to keep density the way it was, but we're going to like slow things down. But no one's ever going to feel like they're not getting the same amount that they like got before. It just won't be new as quickly. Or you can kind of slow things down and focus on quality and like return engagement and figure out like what things your community are like more invested in and give them more of that at a higher like not just like quality level but also like quantity level. So like, okay, instead of 12 boulders, why don't we give them like 10 of like exactly what we know they like gravitate to? And can we spend more time, injecting some of these ideas into that group of boulders or that like sport climb to get some of what we're hoping out of this to slowly shift them to believe maybe that like, well, quality is like really high and they're like giving me everything I need. I'm like learning, I'm progressing, I feel good when I'm coming in. So like, I don't even think so like like consciously of like, well, there used to be 12 boulders in this zone. It's just like, nah, there's like exactly what I want right here in front of me, whether it's 10 or 12 or like 6. I don't really know what the right number is for a zone, but like if we're not leaving them wanting more, then like we're probably doing the right thing and we're saving like our bodies and our time by like just putting a little more effort into the things so that we don't have to put 12 mediocre boulders on the wall. We can put like maybe 8 really, really good boulders on the wall. That's like maybe hopeful thinking. I don't really know if that's like attainable for every crew or every like community, like I'll use Salt Lake as an example. Like they are very like, very needy, like they just like want more often. They like want it to be exactly what it was, 10 years ago. Like they don't like change. And it's like a really hard place for us to like inject some of these ideas in, but we are going to just slowly try it. And like we know that there's like a new generation of climber that is interested in this. And like there needs to be a balance of like this new exciting learning centric mastery, like like I don't know, like maybe this is the climber that I want to produce, while also understanding that there's still this type of climber that's impossible to change. And we can have fun with that like duality, like, and we can give them like the straightforward trainer, 12A. And then we can also give, our youth team and our more like progressive minded, climbers that are seeking new experiences, a 12A, maybe a few anchors away, that like this group of people are never going to want to experience, and that's fine for them, but they like have the thing that they want. right in front of them, and we don't need them to come over there. We like invite them to, like, it's there. And then these like people that we're kind of creating, hopefully, are like really excited about this experience, but then they like understand the need to like go and just do the trainer 12A for fitness and for like, just like mileage. And yeah, that's like 10 years from now, like this old, not old, like this kind of like old school crowd will kind of slowly dwindle because of just like natural forces, and hopefully behind them, like, maybe that's a harsh way to say that. But like,
No, I think it's a
maybe
funny way to
this
say
like,
that.
yeah, maybe this like newer school of thought and climber is just going to keep backfilling for them, and we never miss like the like number marks that we want of like membership and like retention and all that stuff,
Yeah.
because we're just like keeping people coming in while other people are maybe like getting out of climbing or like finding that this isn't really what we want anymore. But it
Yeah.
like is hopefully a product that creates better climbers, more open like people, more than just climbers, like just open-minded people that are like interested in, you know, progression beyond just like physical, and like learning, and like just like being more subjective and like representation minded, being more like exploratory, and like understanding that there's like different ways to like find success in the gym that isn't just that like, yeah, I can consistently climb the crimp ladder 12A.
The big gym chain situation is definitely getting more and more out of hand in the last couple of years. Even just my short time in the climbing industry, and I went to set in Singapore at this gym that only has one gym. It's man, that gym has community. But when I go to like the bigger chains, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't recognize a single person in here right now.
Yeah.
I don't even recognize the front desk staff. Like, he asked me to scan in, and I had to explain to him that I'm staff, and he had to then say, "What do you do here?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah."
Yeah. That's
So
rough.
it's that feeling where I'm like, "Hey, I've been working here for 4 years. You've been here for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Who am
Yeah.
I? Who are you?
Who are you?" Exactly. Yeah. But I think I have a closing question for you. And I think this is kind of more of everything that we just talked about, because I really like the way you frame things. I think a lot of setters feel what you have just described, but struggle to find the words to really express what it is, right? And you have basically given all these feelings a bucket, a way to describe them. So if a setter listening to this episode wants to start thinking about their work differently tomorrow, where would you encourage them to start? How would you encourage them to start?
Man, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just the questions. Like, I guess it's just like 5 questions, like, if you will. Like, when you set your skeleton or like whatever, it's like, like, does this have a visual appeal that sparks interest from far away? If you can answer that, then like to a yes, and then it's like, great, move on to the next one. Like, for running, I guess, like, does it fit within what's a reasonable for this like ability level that you're setting for? Like, don't think grade, think V3 climber, 512A climber. Like, don't use yourself as like the grader, like, try to like look at community or like just climbing at large and determine whether this like will physically fit within that like realm of possibility for that group of people. But yeah, I think like us as route setters and like just climbing gyms, like, we are kind of like telling people what what rock climbing is now, and it is our responsibility to kind of be better, than we have been in the past in curating an experience that is maybe a little more aligned with like why all of us like fell in love with climbing to begin with. It wasn't because it was easy. It wasn't because it was simple. Like it certainly wasn't because it was like mainstream and like palatable for everyone. And like don't be rude and don't be like exclusive or anything like that. But I guess like don't forget why you got into this.
Yeah, I think that's a great sentiment. And like, you have influence whether or not you want it as a route setter. You're creating things that everyone is climbing on. And I sometimes feel that way about my other profession, writing too. I'm just like, oh shit, people might read this or people might listen to this podcast. Like, the only way that I can put one foot in front of another is to pretend that the only person who listens to this podcast is my mom. And that's the only way that I can move forward and try to create good episodes without this creeping anxiety going like, oh my God, people are going to hear this. And I feel similarly about route setting. It, like exactly what you said. Like all we can do is try our best to be better than who we were yesterday and the week before. And I'm not the same setter that I was a year ago, and that's a good thing. And I hope that in another year, I wouldn't be the same setter as I am today. Like, I hope I would get smarter and better and stronger,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be.
Yeah.
It'd be a funny experience for you to do this interview with me in a month. And I guarantee you everything I said will be nothing that I think in a month.
I mean, that
maybe
would
like
mean you're
the
growing.
hard, the like hard things are maybe like true, but like, there's so many like nuances in like everything. And like, I think, we're all just like progressing. And I think that's like something that I love seeing in people is like, like your mind should be changed. And I want these like strong convictions you have. I want you to have like different strong convictions next time I talk to you,
Yeah. Or to have a more nuanced view of the current strong convictions that you have. Like, why else be here? Just to learn more and to experience more, right?
Definitely. I really appreciate talking to you. And it was really fun. I'm sure we have a lot of things we could talk about more. So if you want to do it again, you just let me know.
I will come back to you for paraclimbing and probably a lot more. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening, sharing, and supporting another episode of the Impact Driver Podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing their time and insight, as well as to our sponsors for making these conversations possible. New episodes come out monthly, and you can find past conversations wherever you listen. Be sure to check out the show notes for relevant links, and subscribe to CBJ at climbingbusinessjournal.com to never miss a new episode. If you'd like to nominate someone as a future guest, suggest a topic, or reach out with questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact me and our producers by emailing info@climbingbusinessjournal.com or by filling out the pitch form in our show notes. The Impact Driver Podcast is a production of the Climbing Business Journal. I'm your host, Holly Chen. This episode was edited and produced by myself, Scott Rennick, Joe Robinson, and Megan Cheek, with theme music by Devin Dabney. Thanks again for tuning in.